Someone wanted this woman to disappear. Maybe she wanted the same thing, because almost everything that could identify her had been deliberately destroyed. Her clothes, her labels, her belongings. But investigators still found things she couldn't erase. A bottle at the scene, a suitcase full of strange possessions, and a small notepad filled with coded writing. So if she was trying to erase herself completely, why leave behind a trail at all? This is case file number 007, the Isdal Woman. On November 29, 1970, a man and his two young daughters were hiking through Isdalen, a remote wooded valley outside Bergen, Norway. Among the rocks, they came across something. It was the body of a woman. Her clothing and much of her body had been badly burned. There were clear signs a fire had been set around her, scorched ground, and the smell of fuel still in the soil. Her face was no longer recognizable. There was no wallet, no identification, no document with her name. And almost immediately, investigators noticed something unusual about the objects around her. The labels had been removed. Clothing labels, identifying marks, anything that might have pointed toward a name, a country, a manufacturer, cut away, scratched off, or rubbed out. This wasn't simply a woman nobody recognized. It was a woman whose identity appeared to have been deliberately erased. And then the autopsy raised an even stranger question. She had not simply died in the fire. Before we get to who she might have been, we need to answer something more basic. What actually killed her? The autopsy conducted at Bergen's Gates Institute found a combination of two things. She had taken a large quantity of phenobarbital, a powerful sedative sold under the brand name Phenomal. Between 50 and 70 pills were found in her stomach. A further 12 were recovered beside her body. She also had carbon monoxide in her blood and soot found deep in her lungs. That detail matters more than almost anything else in this case. Soot in the lungs means she was breathing while the fire was burning. She had been heavily sedated. She was alive during the fire. Investigators also found traces of petrol on the ground beneath her. Confirming what Chapter 1 already hinted at, this fire wasn't accidental. It had been deliberately set, and her neck showed bruising, possibly from a fall or possibly from a blow. Norwegian police ultimately ruled the death a probable suicide, but that conclusion never fully settled the questions surrounding this case. Because if she had intended to disappear on her own terms, why go to such extraordinary lengths to erase her identity first? And if someone else had been involved, who had been helping her disappear before she died? Suicide or foul play? We're not going to answer that yet. 3 days after the body was found, investigators traced 2 suitcases to the left luggage department at Bergen railway station. Inside one of them, they found a pair of sunglasses. A partial fingerprint on the lenses matched a fingerprint taken from the body. The suitcases were hers. Inside, clothing, wigs, cosmetics, foreign currency, Deutsche Mark notes sewn into the lining of one item, maps and travel timetables, non-prescription eyeglasses, silver teaspoons with the monograms filed off, eczema cream with the prescription label torn away, and a small notepad. Once again, investigators found the same pattern they'd seen at the crime scene. Labels removed, identifying marks rubbed away. Even the brand markings on her hairbrush had been erased. Then police began reconstructing her movements through hotel registers across Europe, and they discovered that this woman had not been living under one name. She had used multiple aliases. At least 8 false identities were eventually connected to her travels. Different names, different dates of birth, different claimed occupations, but remarkably, the same woman each time. Witnesses who'd encountered her described someone fluent in several languages, German, French, English, Dutch, or Flemish, but she told different people different stories about where she was from. One woman, multiple identities, and every one of them constructed to not connect to the last. Among her belongings was a small notepad filled with what looked like coded writing. At first, this looked like exactly the kind of evidence investigators had been hoping for. A secret code. Something that might finally reveal who she was. But over time, investigators managed to work out much of it. The markings corresponded to dates and places, connected to her documented movements across Europe. In other words, the mysterious code wasn't necessarily a message meant for someone else. It was in large part a private record of where she had been. And that almost makes the notebook more interesting than a genuine unsolved cipher would have been. Because someone who was working this hard to conceal her identity had also kept a written record of her own movements. Why? Was it simply a personal travel log? Something she needed to remember given how many names and cover stories she was tracking? Or was it part of a larger system, a method of reporting or logging her movements that investigators never fully reconstructed? We don't know. But the contradiction is the point. A woman erasing every trace of who she was while simultaneously writing down in her own hand exactly where she'd been. Let's put the evidence together. Exhibit A, remove clothing labels. Exhibit B, at least 8 false identities. Exhibit C, wigs and altered appearance. Exhibit D, foreign currency, some of it sewn into the lining of her belongings. Exhibit E, a coded travel record. Exhibit F, scratched out identifying marks, down to the monograms on a set of teaspoons. Any one of these things on its own could have an innocent explanation. Together they form a pattern. This wasn't a woman who simply lacked an identity. She had gone to extraordinary, sustained lengths to make sure no one could find hers. And that leaves us with the central question of the entire case. Who was she running from? Or perhaps the more disturbing question, who was she trying to become? The year was 1970. Norway sat near the edge of a Europe still divided by the Cold War. The woman had multiple identities. She traveled internationally. She spoke several languages. She used wigs and altered her appearance. She kept coded records of her own movements. And she systematically removed identifying information from her belongings. It's easy to see why people have spent over 50 years asking the obvious question. Was she a spy? But we need to pull back here. Possible is not the same as proven. No intelligence service has ever been conclusively shown to have employed her. No confirmed handler has ever emerged. No definitive espionage mission has ever been established. The spy theory fits some of the evidence, but fitting the evidence isn't the same thing as proving the theory. If we're being disciplined about this, espionage is only one possibility among several. Possibility 1, an intelligence operative, multiple identities, international travel, languages, systematic concealment. Possibility 2, someone deliberately hiding a personal past. The false identities could have been protective rather than professional, running from a person, not a government. Possibility 3, a woman who wanted to disappear entirely on her own terms. The identity erasure as an act of self-protection, not statecraft. Possibility 4, foul play. Someone else may have had their own reason to make sure she couldn't be identified before or after her death. The evidence doesn't tell us who she was. It tells us that she didn't want to be easily identified. And those are two very different things. More than half a century later, we know considerably more about this woman than investigators knew in 1970. We know where she traveled. We know she used multiple identities. We know that identifying marks were systematically removed from her belongings. We know she had taken a large amount of phenobarbital. We know she was alive when the fire burned. And we know that her true identity remains unknown. The biggest questions remain open. Who was she? Why was she hiding her identity so thoroughly? And did she die by her own hand? Or did someone make sure she would never be identified? We don't have enough evidence to crown one answer, so the case remains open. Someone wanted this woman to disappear. Maybe she wanted the same thing, but somewhere between the aliases, the erased labels, the burned belongings, and the coded notes, she left behind just enough evidence for us to keep looking. And that's why, more than 50 years later, the Isdal woman still has no name. So, what do you think really happened in Isdalen? Drop your verdict in the comments below. If you want to be there when the next case file opens, hit subscribe, because history doesn't stop hiding things, and neither will we. Until the next case, keep questioning history.